What's going on, guys? Matt here. Today we are in a tabletop setup, which I want to start doing more often because you guys don't need to see me when I do knife reviews, right? We want to focus on the blade. So I want to do this more often, so we'll start doing some more tabletop knife reviews. Today we are looking at a case knife. Case is very well known for doing classic knife designs, kind of like this, a Rough Rider right here, like slip joint knife design, similar to what your dad or your granddad might have had. But this is not one of those. This is Case's one of their new modern folders. They have a couple, the Kinzua and Marilla, and today we are looking at the Case Kinzua. It's a very interesting knife, not something you'd usually see from Case. This knife right here, guys, I believe is one of the most important knife, if not the most important knife to have come out in the past decade. And we're going to talk about why in the unique portion of this section. So we'll get into what I like, what I dislike, and we'll talk about the unique stuff. But first, let's talk about the specs, and we'll kind of look at this box real quick. Very nice box design, right? Case did a good job making this case right here, right? So you get some paperwork, some warranty stuff, and then this nice foam cutout like you would see in very similar to the Benchmade presentation, right? So here is the Case Kinzua. All right, sweet knife. Okay, so before we do specs, let's do some comparisons real quick. So here's the Spyderco Tenacious right there. Pretty similar in size. Case has a little bit... the blade is almost identical. This is a little bit longer, a little bit more handle to it though. Rat 1 right here. So similar size, bit slimmer of a profile than both of those knives though. And let's look at, here we go, the Kershaw Leak. A little smaller on that, but both aluminum handle materials. Same thing with this, cold steel code 4. So we got aluminum handle materials all the way around. A little bit smaller, a little bit slimmer on that case. Okay, blade length on the Case Kinzua. We're looking at a 3.4 inch blade made of S35 VN steel. Yes, just like all cases, this is made in the USA. Sorry, I hit the camera. Overall length 8.15. Blade stock on this is actually 0.15 inches. That's 3.8 millimeters. And we'll compare that to a knife that has 3.5. This is the Cold Steel American Lawman. The Cold Steel is known for making overbuilt knives, and the blade stock on this is actually a little bit thicker on that case. That's interesting, huh? So 3.8 millimeters is what that's going to be. 0.15 inches on that blade stock. This is flat ground. Handle is going to be 4.75 inches. This is an aluminum frame lock design. Pretty interesting, not something we see all that often. It comes in black, blue, and red. The blue and the red are both beautiful, just a beautiful anodization. Very, very good job on that case. I love the red. Red's my favorite color, so I went with the red. And if you want to pick one of these up, you're looking at about $115, $120. I think it's pretty consistently about $115. They might go up, they might go down a little bit. But yeah, just a little over $100, about $120. All right, guys. What do I like about this knife? Well, I love the design of this knife. I just think that the lines on this thing are very smooth. So you have this nice, cool sweep as it comes over here. Comes down to that nice, stout tanto point. This cool, this just straight tanto design. Very nice tip on that. And then the lines and the machining on this aluminum just give this a really, really cool aesthetic. So I think that the lines are very nice, and it comes to this nice kind of aggressive tip here. That doesn't affect the ergonomics either on the knife. I think that just the lines and everything are very, very nice. So what else do I like? Well, this flipper tab, right? This flipper design, very smooth pivot. And it comes like that out of the box. And it's even smoothed up over time as I've been flipping it a bunch. So I think that the flipper tab, the overall deployment is very, very nice, very smooth. A lot of times you get knives out of the box and it takes a little bit of time for them to wear in. Benchmade is kind of notorious for that. When you get them worn in, they're fantastic, but at first they're very gritty. This was not like this. This was very smooth out of the box. So I think that is really cool. And I think more companies should do that. And it's even more smooth as I've kind of flipped it a bunch. So I also like how thick this blade is. Now, not everyone's going to like this, and I understand that. Some people are going to like something more like this Spyderco. That's still a nice, relatively stout blade. But that full flat grind is just going to be more slicey, and that's kind of been more of a common trend. People like those slicey knives, or even something with this blade stock. Look how thin that is, guys. This Kershaw Leak right here. I mean, that's like a needle point right there, which is fantastic. if you need something for very, very precise work, right? But not so great if you want to use this as a hard use folder, which that's kind of common too now, guys. Like, we like those hard use folders, even if we don't really use them for hard use stuff. Most people use fixed blades for that. But you have that option. You don't really have to worry about that tip snapping. That thing's going to hold up, right? This whole thing being flat ground as well, it's just going to be a very strong blade. The takeaways with that is as well, it's not going to slice as smoothly, especially with, it's a tanto point. It's not much of a slicer, right? But it's just not going to slice as smoothly because it's a thicker grind. But it's probably going to slice just fine for what you need it. If you're not a chef or doing really precise cuts, it's gonna cut just fine. But I like that stout blade because I like to use my folders and not have to worry about anything happening with them. The other thing I really like is the comfort of the handle. So this handle gives me plenty of real estate. You guys know I have very wide hands, and we still got that kind of sharpened pommel. Not sharpened, but it's kind of, I guess, a skull cracker, glass breaker, whatever they call that. You could use that to mash something if you wanted to. But yeah, so I think that's cool. It's just got a nice, comfortable handle. I have really thick hands. I don't think there's going to be anyone who's going to dislike the comfort of this handle. It has a pocket clip. Any folding knife with a pocket clip is not going to be crazy comfortable because you have that pocket clip jabbing into your hand fat, right? But the handle is very comfortable, and I think it's going to be very comfortable for most people. All right, so I like this clip design as well. We'll talk about an issue I have, probably my only real issue with the knife, I guess I could say, and guess it right now. I'm just going to hold this right here, and if you guys can guess what I don't like about this clip design, let me know. But the clip itself, the deep carry with that cutout to access those T8 screws, I love the design. It carries very nicely. I love the design of the clip itself. There's an issue I have with the clip, and go ahead and post in the comments down below if you can guess what it is. Okay. All right. Overall fit and finish on this as well. There's one caveat that I will say I don't like about the fit and finish and what I don't like, but the overall fit and finish I think is really, really nice. This is, this handle, the issue with aluminum is it can come sharp, right? If it's not milled right, if it's not, if the fit and finish is just sharp or it's not, it's cut out correctly, it's not going to feel great in hand. But everything on this, the lines are smooth. They're not pointed. They're not, too sharp or anything. So I think that the overall fit and finish on this whole knife, it feels elegant. It feels like a very, very classy, very well designed knife. And there's one issue I had with the fit and finish, but for the most part, the fit and finish is very, very nice. For this American-produced $115 knife, I think that's pretty impressive. So everything else besides the one caveat I will talk about is very nice. Let's look at that lockup. Lockup's nice, and that might push over a little bit, but it stays smooth. Guys, this is very, very strong. There's no movement whatsoever. No matter how hard you thwack this thing open, whether it's very soft, no movement at all, or if you just really, really open it up, no movement at all. But yeah, the fit and finish I think is really, really good with that one caveat that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Two more things. So I really like that they use T8 screws instead of T6. It's just not gonna it's not gonna strip out as easily. Like on something like the Cold Steel American Lawman, those are T6. Why? Especially for a strong knife like Cold Steel makes. Use T8. There's no reason you shouldn't. And last thing, the laser engraving on this is really, really well done. It's very tasteful. You just have that case logo right there, and then you have Kinzua S35 USA right on the back. And that's very small and low profile, but it's deep. The laser engraving is deep, so it's going to hold up. And the case is very deep. It's very nice. It feels very, very nice. So I think that the laser engraving is very, very well done on this knife as well. So two things I dislike. One was, and this is a common issue with most case knives that I've heard, the edge was a little burry out of the box. I think I've heard this with just about every case knife I've seen reviewed. Edge had some burrs. I stropped it one time and it was fine. Now the edge feels great. It's very sharp, not super worried about it, but case, it would be great if you could get your edges a little bit smoother out of the box. The biggest issue I have with this knife, and it's not going to prevent me from keeping this knife. I love this knife, if you guys haven't already figured that out. So go ahead and guess one more time, if you can, what my issues with that pocket clip are. Case, what are you doing with those screws? Those raised screws right where your jeans or your shorts or your pants or whatever are supposed to go over. Look at the distance between that clip and then that screw right there. It's so hard to put your jeans over this because both of those screws get in the way of you sticking this in your pocket, right? That's just a design flaw. I would guess that they just didn't want to have different screws. They probably used the same screws for here as they did up here. I'll get different screws. I'll just get a couple of T8s with more of a flat design. With another deep carry clip, let's look at the Kershaw Leak. I have an aftermarket deep carry clip on this. It's not as big of an issue. One, those screws are lower profile. Two, you can see they're out of the path of the clip itself. So this goes in your pocket just fine. Just put lower screws, guys. More low profile screws. I mean, how much can you actually be saving, right? with a couple of screws being different. Another thing that I would have liked to have seen, but it's not a game changer, as you can see on this side that the clip isn't on. This is tip up carry, right and left hand, by the way. Is they didn't mill out that area. Some companies will mill out where their clips go so that it sits a little lower. That's not a huge issue for me, but I would like to have seen it. Especially the milling on this aluminum is already very nice. I can't imagine it would have been much more difficult to mill that area out, but it's not the end of the world. I'll get some other screws and they'll be more low profile and it will go in my pocket just fine. So that's really my biggest issue. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a cleaner edge, but one strap, I'm not really going to complain about that at all. Okay, let's talk about what you guys have been waiting for. Why is this the most important knife to have come out in the past decade? So this knife, the Case Kinzua and the Case Marilla, which is a drop point design, essentially the identical handle, drop point design, and then there is a G10 inlay right here. I like the design of that knife too. I think the G10 inlay is very utilitarian, but I don't like the look of it. And I like Tanto blade, so I went ahead and went with this one. This is why I think this knife at $115 is the most important knife to have come out in the past decade, right? Let's get this to focus. There, that's why. Kinzua, that's just the name. S35 VN and USA is why. You are getting a knife that's made in the USA. That is made by people who we know. You can argue politically, but they're not making terrible wages. You could argue they should be making more. That's fine. But they're making a living wage. They're making a living wage, and they're making this knife. And this is a knife made of S35 VN, which is a premium powdered metallurgy steel. Very, very high performing steel. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, folding knife steel. And it's being made by people who are, able to go home and they're, not making slave wages, right? I have no problems with knives being made in other countries. I think it can be great. We have really inexpensive knives. This knife is going to be this code 4 right here. You're going to get this for $80. It's made in Taiwan. Taiwan makes some great stuff, but I love the fact that this is made in the USA. It's a great design. It's a modern design, and it's made from S35. You have knives that are made in the USA, like this Kershaw Leak 14C28N. That's not a premium steel. It's not a bad steel, but it's not a premium steel. And this is going for $50. You are getting a premium knife made of premium materials for $115. To me, what this says and why it's the most important knife to have come out in the last decade is it no longer gives companies like Cold Steel or Spyderco right here. It no longer gives these companies excuses to say, well, to keep production costs down, we have to make this in Taiwan, right? You know how much this thing goes for? $100, right? $100 is about what this goes for, depending on when you buy it. As Cold Steel American Lawman, great knife. Look at the materials, guys. S35, right? It's the same blade materials, and this is G10, which is arguably a cheaper material to work with. This goes for about $100. So for $15 more, you're getting a knife with essentially a more premium handle material. You could argue, G10 is still a fantastic handle material, but it's made in the US. Someone is making a living wage making this knife. I think that is fantastic. It no longer gives companies like Cold Steel, which I love Cold Steel. They're probably still my favorite knife company, or Spyderco. Spyderco makes a lot of stuff in the U.S., right? But it no longer gives these companies, excuses to make their knives in other countries by saying, we have to keep costs down, right? That's how. Right here, guys, this is it. This is the game changer, in my opinion, because it shows that a company, a big knife company, can come out with a knife made in the USA from premium materials and still make a profit. So what I'm saying to these other knife companies is the ball's in your court. You want to make knives and you support, production stuff in America, if you're from America. If not, I know a lot of people really prefer knives or products made in their country, and I support that. But specifically to my USA friends, if you want to support a knife company making a knife out of premium materials, this is the way to go. This is the knife to buy, and it's telling these companies, which are both American companies right here, the ball's in your court. You can make these knives for this price, and you no longer have the excuses to say, well, we have to make it overseas to cut down manufacturing costs. That's no longer the case. That is no longer the case. Pun absolutely intended, right? So that is what I have to say about the Case Kinzua. I love this knife. I think it's fantastic, even given its two small flaws that it comes with. I think the Marilla is going to be a fantastic knife as well. I might get my hands on one of those soon. But I think I absolutely recommend this. I cannot recommend this enough, especially if you live here in the U.S. or if you just like supporting U.S. manufacturing. Buy this knife, guys. Absolutely, 100% buy this knife. This is a game changer. This is a shout out. It is a saying to the other knife manufacturers, hey, look what we can do. Why don't you guys do that too? And I absolutely hope they start doing that. So that's what I have to say on the Case Kinzua. It's fantastic. It's a great knife, great design, and it's made in the USA of premium materials. Keep doing this, Case. Other companies, you should start doing it as well. Okay, guys, make sure and like and subscribe. We're going to be doing a ton more reviews here soon. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.